City Hall.
Where is that coming from?
They're doing some construction or something.
Is that the basement?
Tell them to stand down.
Mayor, did you watch the Texans game yesterday?
No, I did not. Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah, they are.
But you know, you gotta just keep slow and steady.
They're doing great.
You know how it goes, though.
I know, but they're turning it around. Good to see you finally.
You think we got it?
It is good. It's good.
All right, let's get going. All right, let me thank you all for being present this afternoon. Certainly want to thank Councilmember Carolyn Evans-Chavez for being present, Director Carol Haddock over Public Works, Rick Mancy, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Public Works, and Lisa Garrison, who's the Deputy Director of the Customer Account Services Division. Good afternoon. Over the past few months, several months really, I've heard the community and their frustrations with high water bills, and I know that getting an unexpectedly high water bill is frustrating. I think in part in time we've all experienced that. Certainly I have myself. Today we have potential solutions to share with you. And it starts with changes to the specific ordinances. I certainly want to thank the Public Works and the Legal Department, Arturo Michelle, for having been working on these proposed changes for several months. This is being, today we have potential solutions to share with you, and it starts with changes to specific ordinances. This is being addressed through proposed ordinance changes because current city ordinances restrict our ability to respond to the public's concerns. And I've heard this several times over the past several months from Public Works, that even when we wanted to make changes or to modify customers' water bills, the current city ordinances restricted just how much we could do. And quite frankly, these ordinances are outdated, and they were written for a different time. When many of the ordinances were first enacted, they were created with the assumption that all of the equipment worked properly and that we received accurate readings of customers' water usage. Today's reality is quite different, and today we are faced with a high number failing meter reading devices due to the aged infrastructure, and the city must rely on a much higher number of estimated readings, relying on a number much higher than any of us like. We are working to replace the meters, but this will still take some time. And meanwhile, it's important that we act now to provide customers necessary relief. For months, we've been working with the Houston Public Works as we listen to the residents find a right way, a more accurate way to provide much needed relief for our customers. And today I want to outline 9 proposals for changing our water billing ordinances. They are on this week's agenda a couple of days from now, and I will present them to the City Council on Wednesday. We've been listening. We heard from a number of different people, talked to legal as well as Public Works extensively, and today my administration is pleased to announce how we are taking action to address many of these issues. The combined impact of these ordinance changes is that our customer account services team will be equipped with the tools and the resources necessary to resolve the overwhelming majority of disputes on the first call. Number one, first, we we will remove the limit to the amount of times you can get help after you've had a private water leak. As it is written today, water customers can only receive 2 adjustments for leaks per year, even if the leaks are at different places and times. So we're going to remove that limit. Whenever there's a leak that comes up for a customer, no matter how many times, whether it's 2, whether it's 4, whether it's 6 in a year, we, Public Works, will have the flexibility to address those leaks when they occur. Number 2, we will add an incentive for customers who repair their private water leak and apply for the adjustment. The incentive will reduce customers' bills to their average water usage if they complete a repair within 30 days of receiving their bill. So if they do that, we'll go back to their average usage if they complete it within 30 days, repair the private leak. If a customer repairs their leak within 30 to 60 days of receiving their bill, they'll receive a 75% adjustment. And if the repair is completed more than 60 days after receiving the bill, they will get a 50% adjustment. Combined, these changes will incentivize customers to make their repairs to the private leaks. Number 3, in addition to these adjustments, we will provide customers with a 100% credit for wastewater charges when they receive an adjustment to their bills from repairing a water leak. Today, residents only receive 50%, even though the water does not pass through the wastewater system. We are changing that, and so they will receive a 100% credit. In some cases, even after receiving an adjustment, there may be a high balance remaining. To qualify for any additional adjustments, we are lowering the requirements. So number 4, the current ordinance only allows customers to qualify for a credit if the leak costs more than $2,000 on their bill or more than $250 for low-income elderly residents. We are proposing reducing the limit to $1,000 and $100 respectively, so that in the future, a customer can qualify for a credit if the leak costs more than $1,000 or $100 for low-income elderly residents. There have been times when some customers received a high water bill and there was no explanation. It's not a leak. The meter is working fine. They just have a high water bill. Number 5, currently, the maximum relief we can offer is to lower the bill down to 150% of the customer's average water usage. We're going to lower that to 125%. Number 6, there are some situations where a customer needs help with their bill and it doesn't fit into any of these other categories. The current ordinance has a high threshold for customers to qualify for adjustments. Currently, the amount must be 5 times a customer's average bill, and they only get a reduction of $4,000 for one adjustment that doesn't exceed 2 months. We are proposing that council approve, reducing that threshold to 2 times a customer's average monthly bill rather than 5 times, and that the customer account services team can reduce that bill by up to $10,000 for one adjustment that does not exceed 2 billing cycles. This lowers the criteria and increases the benefit for the customers. Number 7, we also have heard feedback from customers who are required to pay for basic service charges when there's a water meter at a property, even if they aren't using any water. I've heard from a couple of folks on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock when they've come before us. Under the current system, to avoid these charges, the customer must pay for a private plumber to camp the line and then remove the meter, which can cost up to $1,500 or more. Moving forward, the city is going to offer customers the option to have the meter locked for a one-time fee of $150. Once a customer is charged for the lock, basic services charges are totally removed. And if for some reason a customer wants to reactivate that meter, the city will not charge and the customer will not have to pay a developer impact fee. Number 8, we also are proposing benefits for customers who helped us reduce the amount of paper bills. Customers will save 50 cents for each monthly bill they receive once they sign up for online e-bills. And number 9, finally, in coordination with council members, like Councilmember Carolyn Evans Shabazz, Councilmember Peck, Councilmember Huffman, that proposed an ordinance that limits a look back at billing to 3 months. We're offering to codify the current practice because what they have put forth is a practice that's already taken place. But we are offering to codify the current practice of Public Works by not permitting a look back of greater than 3 months for single-family residential customers. And that's a big distinction. Not for others, but for single-family residential.
And it's actually all residential.
And it's all residential customers. Again, we have already instituted this as a practice, but we are now making this a permanent change by ordinance. This administration has given careful consideration to each of these proposed changes, and this administration will ask council to approve the changes come this coming Wednesday. As I said earlier this year, when you are the 4th largest city in the United States, and we send out over 500,000 bills, 500,000 or more a month, you're going to run into some errors. But I asked Public Works and the city attorney to begin working on the proposed changes. Today is an example of those changes. And keep in mind, the incorrect bills make up less than 0.8% of our total. But as a city, we can do better. And any customer that receives a bill higher than they deserve, that customer needs to get relief from the city. We are in the customer service business. And with these changes, I feel confident that the overwhelming percentage of complaints that we have received will be addressed, and we will not be restricted by past ordinances that have prevented, in part, the city from addressing these customer concerns. And as we move forward, as issues arise, we won't hesitate to address them either. Having said that, let me now pause and bring up Director Haddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to be up here and represent Houston Public Works. As the Mayor said, I'm Carol Haddock. I'm the Director of Houston Public Works. We are committed to providing accurate and timely bills each and every month. And we know that we have not always hit the mark over the last year as we've worked through this. One of the things that we talk about, the aging infrastructure and the remote read devices, to give you some perspective, back in 2019, before we implemented the replacement contract to replace these remote read devices, Public Works was needing to get manual reads on about 40,000 accounts. And that resulted in us estimating 6,000 to 7,000 accounts each and every month. And that was manageable with the manpower that we had and the resources that we had. Today, we have over 125,000 of these remote read devices that have failed. And we're required to estimate nearly 40,000 bills a month. That's why we're in the position that we're in and the situation that you're seeing. But it is definitely this change that the mayor has not only proposed, but the mayor has very much prodded us to move these forward and get these to you today, will allow us to address those in a much more timely manner and work with our customer service. I definitely want to take a moment and thank Lisa Garrison and her team. They have been listening to the concerns, listening to the specific information that we've received. We've received a lot of questions about high bills, and they're all caused for different reasons. And that's the reason that you're seeing 9 proposals today, is those proposals address the various reasons that we're seeing for still having high bills, and also address our staff limitations on their ability to address these high bills. These changes will allow our staff to actually do things that they've been prohibited from doing in the past. And so we're very excited that we're going to be part of these solutions moving forward. We're thankful to the council members for bringing forward issues as well. We hear you, and we know that we are going to continue to hear ways to improve as we move forward. And we look forward to continuing to hear that, but also know that we know it's a good day when we can present a plan to the community to help provide relief to everybody, including our most vulnerable Houstonians and our senior citizens. People shouldn't have to choose between food, medicine, water, basic needs in their daily budget. Clean, safe drinking water really is a human right, and it is part of our obligation to make sure that we deliver that. We are required to charge what it costs us to deliver water, and that's how our rates are set, but that still does create an extensive challenge for some people in our community. We support these changes. We look forward to implementing them, and we stand ready to implement them as soon as council passes them. We stand together with the mayor, with city council, and with our team today as part of our purpose, that together we create a strong foundation for Houston to thrive. We know that we have to do this together, and we are glad to be part of that. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you so very, very much, Director Haddock. You see the proposed changes right there on the screen. We're prepared to take some questions. Let me respectfully ask that you limit your questions to these proposed changes only. That's what we're dealing with today, and that's where the focus needs to be on today.
If Carol can just, because you touched on it very quickly, Carol, if you can just repeat the facts. You said how many devices have failed and how many required to read? I want to hear 125 out of 40.
So when before we entered the contract that we have to replace meter reading devices, we had about 40,000 that had failed, that we were having to manually read every month, which required us to estimate about 6,000 to 7,000 bills on a monthly basis. Today, we have 125,000 of our 550,000 accounts that require a manual read on a monthly basis, which means we are estimating about 40,000 because we don't have the resources to get all 125,000.
And for questions, could you come to the microphone because we're live on HTV, people can hear you and listen. Thank you. And there's a microphone on that side too. Matt.
For the mayor, Director Haddock, if council does approve these changes on Wednesday, how long will it take to implement them all, to roll it all out?
We just had that conversation.
Absolutely. So we can start implementing these immediately as far as the relief, as far as the ones about estimating and things like that. They will go into effect as the next billing cycle rolls out. So as the next bills are generated, it will be in place.
For the mayor, have you done any kind of estimate of what kind of impact this will have on the city's budget?
We have had that conversation, and quite frankly, overall, we think we can cover all of the changes within our cost constraints. It should not add significantly more to our bottom line. The ordinance change in terms of how many leaks, for example, can be addressed without restricting people to just 2. We think we can make those implement these changes without there being any significant cost to the city of Houston or to the CUS system as a whole.
Has there been any update on the Public Works investigation and?
I'm restricting it just to these changes for today.
Nothing on that?
Not at this time. That's an investigation that's ongoing. The only thing I will do is correct erroneous information that the city has paid out $10 million. That's totally false. So anybody who's reporting that the city has paid out $10 million in this particular matter, that's wrong. I will say just the employee has been relieved from duty, the contract has been terminated, and about $406,000 was paid out to that particular contract until it was found. So that $10 million that's on social media, I would simply ask that people be more responsive and be more accurate. Okay, sorry.
Very quickly, on the devices that have failed, You indicated, I just want to be clear, you said you're required 125,000 manual reads
That's
out of 550,000. And I believe 40,000 devices have failed. Is that correct?
So all of them that require manual reads, the device has failed or it does not have a device at all.
So how many devices total have failed? That's what I'm trying to get into real fast.
So we can get you that number. I don't know that we have that specific number. Lisa, do you know the number that have failed? I mean, it's somewhere, so we've also replaced devices. We've put 71,000 in the ground as well. So we've replaced devices of those that have failed as well. So it's somewhere between 120,000 and 200,000. But
Is that
we can
right?
get you that number.
120 to 200,000 devices that have failed? So my question off of that number is the following. So like, let's say I'm a Houston resident tonight, and I'm concerned about my device. The failures of these devices, is it because they're outdated? Is it because it was a faulty design? And if I have that device there, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, what are these devices? What are the names, the models, so Houstonians can say, oh, you know what, Public Works, I have this device. Maybe you might want to check it to see if we need to get this device replaced.
So the answer to your question is probably a little broader than you want, but we started putting in remote read devices in the late 90s, and the majority of the city went in between the early 2000s and the late 2009, everything from that day and age. All this device is it literally reads the meter and transmits it. It doesn't actually measure the water. It's actually the transmission of the read. And so that device failing means we have to come manually read it, but it doesn't actually make anything not work on the meter that's there at your house in the ground.
And do we know what the shelf life was on these meters at the very beginning? Did they come purchasing lifetime warranty or a 40-year warranty? I mean, I'm looking to try to save money for the city here. If you're saying they're expiring after 20 years and they went short on you, then you guys have a great claim to go against the manufacturer.
Not short at all. They were actually estimated to last 10 to 15 years, and we've had many of them in the ground closer to 15 to 20. So that's the reason that we went to replace these starting in 2019, because we were getting up to that 20-year, and we knew that we would see increases in failures. And unfortunately, the pandemic, because these devices rely on a chip, and it's the same chip that cell phones and computers and vehicles rely on. And when the manufacturer's facilities shut down, our manufacturer of these devices was unable to get the chips.
Let me just add. But regardless of when the replacements take place, or regardless of whether or not the equipment works, the 9 proposed changes will cover that. So as we work to replace the technology, improve the technology, correct the technology, these 9 proposed changes will cover pretty much every customer out there to make sure that they get an accurate bill, or in the end gets an accurate bill that reflects their true usage. So the purpose of these 9 proposed changes, and most of them are dealing with ordinance changes, should help to make sure that customers get the bill that reflects their actual usage. And that's what I want to emphasize. The city is not in the business of trying to profit from people getting high water bills. We want the bills to reflect their actual usage. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mayor Turner, can I ask
Sure.
about the timing? I know that you had said you've been working on this for months. Why now? Why did it take so long? I can understand maybe some of these changes, but the instance, the 50-cent savings on the electronic bill versus the other ones, why didn't you do some of this stuff months ago?
Well, because we started studying it months ago. And so you evaluate it. You also have to evaluate what's preventing, let's say, Public Works from making the necessary changes. If someone comes and they provide a high water bill, my question is, why couldn't y'all just address it? And the response that we were getting back is that, Mayor, there are certain ordinances that exist. So the charge was go back and look at all of these ordinances that controls people's water bills. Because I don't want to make one change and then a week later, 2 months later, you say, here's another ordinance. So let's make sure that we do a comprehensive look so that we're addressing it as much as possible in a holistic way. So that's what they have done. The other thing is that you do want to assess the financial impact on the city, so that if we are making these changes, do we have to do anything else financially? And so they've made that assessment, and that takes time. So it's not just Public Works, it's also the financial department. And then you have to look at it from legal's point of view. If we are making these changes, is it going to create any problems with our bond covenant, with our utility system, CUS? And so legal had to do its assessment. If you end up making changes quickly, just because the pressure is on you, and you make it worse for the city, the customer doesn't win, and neither does the city as a whole. So it's always prudent to make sure that we vet these changes and understand exactly what we are doing before you bring them forth. And then you bring them forth. So after looking at these, the problems, the issues, the proposed changes, it has taken several months, but we are here where we are.
Did those council members' proposal maybe force you to make this announcement now? Because they came out and said that they had this ordinance proposal that they're going to add to the agenda a couple hours later. You said you had your own ordinance proposals that you were going to propose. I mean, why do it a couple hours after they made that announcement? Why not do it a meeting before them? And I mean, did they impact or influence your decision to come with this at all?
Well, you always do it. You do it at the right time that is best for the city of Houston. And a comprehensive look is always good. Feedback is always appreciated. If someone comes forth with a good idea, we'll entertain that good idea. And as you can see, it's one of the 9. But it's one of the 9. The other 8 are more what I call comprehensive. And quite frankly, even with the proposal that's been put forth, that was put forth by the city council members, that's a practice that's already taken place. It just had not been placed in ordinance, okay? And that's what we're doing now. But we were already doing that. The council members always come forth with excellent ideas. And whenever their ideas come forth, they are timely. And so I dare not tell a council member or members that their idea is too late. So when they put it forth, it's always timely and it's being incorporated here. But the reality is, whether these ideas came forth at the beginning of the year or coming forth in December, it is the end user, the customers, that will benefit from these changes. And I think that's a good deal. I do intend to be the mayor until December 31st, 11:59. So expect other things to come. They may come at 10 o'clock p.m. on December 31st before I leave. But the people are paying me for the work the entire time, and I shall work the entire time. So yeah, that's a kind of long answer to your question. But quite frankly, I wish they could have been sooner. But it did take Public Works, for example, some time to take a look at the technology and the read that we were getting and whether or not those reads were accurate or whether or not we need to factor, whether or not we could replace certain things timely. And so based on all of the input that we received from the various experts in the area, we think these changes, proposed changes, will go a long way at benefiting the customers.
Mayor, another one of the things we've heard complaints about is about the appeals process. I don't see that on this list of proposed changes. Are you looking at the Water Adjustment Board and the appeals process?
We are, but I would tell you that many of the appeals were due because the ordinances restricted what Public Works could do. And so people, for example, if people were, if they had a high water bill and we could only make an adjustment to 4,000, and they still had, even with that 4,000, it was still high. The automatic response from customers, that's appeal. And then when you take it to the board and they take a look at the ordinance, and their question is, did you all operate in accordance with the ordinance? If the answer was yes, then the end user still left away with a high bill and they were unhappy, okay? So in order for even for the appellate process to work, you have to modify the ordinances so that when the hearing examiner is looking at why did the water department why did they come to this conclusion, and then the response was, well, this is the ordinance and we're obligated to abide by the ordinance, everybody was stuck. And then that's what I was getting. Mayor, even when we wanted to make a change, the ordinance prevented us from making the necessary change. So you had to change it. And that's what we're doing now. I think now what you will see moving forward is that with the change of these ordinances, now the appellate process will have even greater meaning. So it's not about changing the appeals process, it's about changing the ordinances that was restricting people's ability to fully correct the problem. And did I, Carol?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Mayor, along those same lines, another question we got. Is there any avenue where customers would be reimbursed for what would now be found to have been excessive water bill charges with these changes? Because is there a certain length of time back that?
Now that one, I don't know if it's embedded within them. So I think that would be very, very difficult to do, to try to go back. I regret that. But we certainly are trying to address things as soon as, assuming City Council vote on Wednesday, we can immediately effectuate, I think, a much more favorable environment for the customers. But going back, I think, is a little bit late for that.
Just one brief question for Director Haddock
Sure.
as well, if I may. Is there a map of where the remote read devices have failed, and also where Public Works is placing new devices? And if you don't have one, can you give us a sense of what areas of town you're seeing them fail the most in?
So I'm going to ask Lisa do we have a map of that? I know that your team was working on one.
We're still working on that, but it's not centralized in a particular area. They're across the city.
Yeah, now, as far as the failing devices, they are citywide, and they have if you map the accounts that have been estimated or need to be estimated, that is citywide that we see that. Some of the areas where we had the original census remote read devices, those were the ones that were concentrated in the west and in the southwest, which were the oldest of the oldest, where we had the pilot programs. But the rest of them, they were deployed citywide, and so they're all aging citywide.
Carol, Carol on this side.
Yeah.
Carol, since city data that we've examined since 2020, 22 to 23, there's been a large jump in people who have been requesting adjustments. About 65% is the spike. I can see that. 65% has been that spike. What is your department or the city mayor doing specifically to drill down and realize or ask what is really causing this spike, separate from the issue that we're seeing here with the readers?
Well, so that's why we have, 8 proposals on the table, not just one, because we do recognize that when we have been estimated for a period of time, and particularly in a time when we went into drought, the estimate that we used to generate the bill.
This is important for Houstonians. Can we just hold on if you don't mind?
We can certainly hold on.
If you don't mind.
Maybe we can get there now. Great. So when we have meters that, maybe we'll get somebody to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we have meters that have been estimated for a period of time, we're using basically a 12-month average. We throw out the high and the low and get to an average usage. And so if they were being estimated before we went into the drought last year, and then their water usage went up, and then when we finally get that manual read down the road and look back at that back period and do the catch-up bill, that's when most of the people that we saw the high bills, most of them fell into that category. So the catch-up, well, I won't say most of them, a very large number of them came into that category. The other issue was if that was happening and you had a leak, you had no indication that you had a leak if you weren't seeing it in your yard or you weren't seeing it pool up somewhere. And so people had leaks that they were unable to see and unable to cure. And that's not their fault. And so these changes are to really hone in on the problems that people are seeing where they did nothing wrong, and the rules in place resulted in them having a very high bill.
And Mayor, very quickly if you can, you address this from a professional vantage point, but to people who are in acres homes, people who are on the east side of the city, in the southwest Houston, what do you say to them today if they're right now fighting Public Works and have been looking for that relief because of this announcement by your office?
Well, look, we don't want people feel as though they have to fight Public Works, and I don't want Public Works to feel as though that we should be charging people more than what they're using. So we're all in this together. You know, we should be, except my contractors over there, but we're all in this together. And what we are trying to do is to create a system, so to speak, that works for the end user, that works for every Houston customer, regardless where they live.
My question, Mayor, though, was specifically about if they're in the challenge of having to identify the problem and how to make that payment.
Well,
And they've been battling the city for a time on this.
Well, there's no question we're creating a much more sensitive process. You know, it's not about where we can only give you a 50% credit, when you, quite frankly, you should be getting 100% credit. We are now changing the ordinance to give you that 100% credit. If you should not have been paying $100 and your actual bill, you should have been getting $50, then that's what your bill should be, and that's what you should be paying. So we are correcting that totally. We are incentivizing people. If you got a private leak, the sooner you repair it, the better the outcome for you. Take a little bit longer, it may cost you a little bit more, but we're trying to incentivize you. So that's a good thing. We don't care how many leaks occur, whether it's 2, whether it's 4, whether it's 6 in that year, we will deal with each one individually. And if you've got another water, what you call it, on your property,
Irrigation meter?
no, the meter. If you got another meter that you're not using, instead of it costing you $1,500 to correct it, if you tell us, we'll lock it, that's $150. That is a significant savings. So it's not a one change, it's a holistic change. We're not going to be going back 12 months. Looking at your bill, we'll go back 3 months, and we're codifying that into the ordinance. So what we are putting forth, I believe, will address most of the complaints that we've received. And we're simply, what I would say, as we move forward, give us time to work these things through. But assuming that this ordinance passed on Wednesday, there's no time delay. We will implement these changes the very next day as we move forward. So look, let me thank you all. Let me thank you all for working with us, for being patient. I know there's been a lot of attention on this, and we look forward to providing you any additional information that you may need so you can articulate and provide that to your
Mayor,
viewers.
one final request. Can you put the slate back up for us so we can get shots? Oh, you got a hard?
Just need
Yeah.
the picture?
Yeah, got video.
Do you just need the shot?
We're going to give you a hard copy, and that won't cost you anything. Okay, thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.